You know, we teach our kids every day to be honest. Well, this is also a lesson adults need to remember, especially if you're hurt on the job. Catherine Stone of Injury Florida Law is here to discuss why honesty is the best policy in those workers' compensation cases. Welcome, Catherine. How are you?
Good to see you again.
So I'm assuming, being able to read that there, that you have sometimes that might not be the situation.
No, and it's not even if you don't have a workers' compensation claim yet. As you know, I like to share stories.
Yes.
And I have a very recent event where I obtained some medical records that pre-existed the date of the accident.
Oh.
And there was completely different versions given as to how the injury sort of arose or developed, to the point that there was not much I could do with it, you know, and I had to explain that the courts have interpreted it that you do not get the luxury of basically telling one doctor one thing and another doctor another thing, because they consider that fraud and misrepresentation. And those are very serious issues, especially not in any kind of litigation, and anything in life really, but in litigation especially, that can turn into insurance fraud and you could be criminally charged for it. So it's very, very important. You know, we've also talked too about being honest with your attorney and letting them know, you know, so that's why when I go through a detailed intake with a client, I point blank ask them, have you treated with any doctors in the past? Have you had these complaints in the past? Have you complained to anybody that there's a record of with regards to what the new allegation is? And so, you know, I just always try to remind people that, you know, you're not going to be able to skirt the system. And it makes our jobs very hard because I don't want to tell someone that I can't help them.
I know.
I want to be able to help everyone. So it's just important, you know, when you fill out those intake questionnaires at doctor's offices, even if it's your primary care physician, you know, those can later be subpoenaed. We can, you know, opposing counsel can go and issue a subpoena to that medical doctor and get all that information. And a lot of times clients will say, well, why is that relevant? Well, it's relevant. The only time that there's a sticking point where they can't just do that is when we have mental health involved or drug and alcohol and some other illnesses where you have to have a special release in order to be able to get that information. But I always tell clients your life is an open book when you pursue any kind of lawsuit. And so it's just always best to be particular and be honest when you're answering any forms in a doctor's office or answering any questions to a doctor, because believe it or not, it can come back to either help you or hurt you.
I don't think we've ever really dove into this before with your segments about how important it is to be honest. And I think people probably think that maybe they want to give an answer that you as an attorney wants to hear, but that's the worst thing people can do.
Exactly, and there's no explaining it away. There's no explaining how you tell one doctor one thing and another doctor another thing and then testify in a deposition about something completely different. There's hardly any way to get around that.
And the truth will always come out.
The truth, and you know that the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
So it's not a nice topic to talk about, but it is something that I feel, you know, people need to know. Even I've had clients in the past that they'll come to me later and say, oh, well, you know, my work comp doctor, I didn't tell him about, you know, my auto accident 3 years ago. Okay, well, why not? Was the question asked?
Yeah.
You know, and that's always like gets me nervous when that happens.
Well, and just to be able to say, like you just said, any type of litigation, your life becomes an
open book. Your bank accounts, your medical history, you know, your prior marriages, your children's names. I mean, everything. You are an open book. I also had that conversation with a client, preparing them for their deposition, explaining the process and going in detail over what topics can be covered. And the client was just like, really? All of this? They're going to ask me all of this? Yeah. Yes.
I feel like we've had a good moral conversation today, Catherine. Well, thank you so much. If you've got questions, I know Catherine can definitely help you out. There's the information on your screen, her website, her phone number. Again, we really appreciate you joining us today.